talking about this football game last night and these alternate broadcasts and everything else, I'm really not sure what to make of it. I know Peyton likes to say the word "like" a lot, but it was interesting watching those guys, and I love the fact that they're so uniquely, they have a unique perspective of the game. It's the right perspective of the game, but they're so also kind of awkward and funny and weird, and the guests that they have kind of add a little bit to it. But I don't necessarily know that I'm used to that. I'm just not used to guys talking the whole time over everything about every little thing. There were some funny moments. They're going to get better, obviously. This is the first foray into this. But
they're doing 9 more, I believe. They don't do it every week, but they're doing 9 more.
Right. So I was a little conflicted because it wasn't what I expected or really what I wanted them to do. I wanted them to be in the booth doing these things, but you can't do what they were doing in the booth, obviously. You have to just really focus on the game, and you got to let the game be the star. But I will say that for me anyway, I feel like ESPN Plus and ESPN2, who's ever doing all this, the stars are the Mannings. And the Mannings, just eat up the entire game. I mean, and the game kind of gets lost in the shuffle. So I did go back to the normal broadcast to watch most of the game. I would say I caught the Mannings probably a quarter of the time. And it's just, as a viewer, I'm not ready for that. You know what I mean? I'm not used to it. It's something different that I would have to get used to. And again, like I said, their personalities are great. They're funny. I think that, this is a good way for them to stay involved in the game and not have to go to that booth and have to go to that city, because that's what they don't want to do. They don't want to have to go and do the game at the game site each and every week and be scrutinized by millions of people who are watching it.
And it's not the main broadcast. So if you don't like it, you could watch the other broadcasts. It's not as if they're trying to have this be the number one option. But for a lot of people last night who wanted to check it out, it was the number one option. In the beginning, I mean, Peyton seemed like he didn't like the idea of there being any silence at all, because he just kept talking and talking and talking and talking. He was so revved up, and then he's up and he's got the whiteboard and the dry erase board, and he puts the Ravens helmet on. He's doing the Gruden thing. He's got a play sheet. It was like doing a one-man show, like he was John Leguizamo. I was like, calm down. Yes,
I know.
And Eli's just sitting there like chilling and making a crack here or there. And they brought Barkley on. I know they brought Ray Lewis on and Russell Wilson towards the end. And then when the game got close and all the crazy stuff was happening in the fourth quarter and overtime, they were really focusing on the game stuff. I thought that was the best that they did last night. But it's different, it's interesting, and I like the fact that there's some outside-the-box ideas when it comes to broadcasting games, especially national games, where there's 2 teams playing that you might not be interested in. Now, there's 2 ways to get into games like that. One is fantasy and gambling, and the other is to have a more fun broadcast that maybe keeps you invested if it's a couple of teams you don't necessarily care about. But they will get better. There's no doubt about it. I just wish they were in the same room. I don't like that at all, the fact that they're, as we're not in the same room today, but it does make a difference when you're in the same room as somebody as opposed to being in 2 different places like that, as we well know. I mean, when we came back into the studio together after all that time that we were, whatever it was, 8 months, 9 months that we weren't allowed to be in the same studio together, it was like instant energy and difference, and I really think that they could benefit from that. But everybody seemed to be watching it, at least according to the Twitter feed and text that I was getting. Everybody had to check out that Manning cast. It was like the thing to do last night.
Yeah, the other thing, too, is they got a great game. I mean, they just got an unbelievable game. The fourth quarter was ridiculous. Back and forth, fumbles, interceptions, penalties. It was a crazy game. Plus, the fans and in Las Vegas were unreal. I mean, that's what we were all hoping for. And good for John Gruden and Derek Carr, because, winning that game and the opening game with fans and everything else was really important for them. So now you have the AFC West and the NFC West are the 2 divisions that basically haven't lost a game. So to start the season, and all those divisions, those 2 divisions anyway, are undefeated. And what I think last night showed is that there's going to be a lot of these games this year, and there's going to be a lot of teams like Baltimore and Las Vegas that are in the middle of the pack. I think they're all in the middle of the pack. They definitely have opportunities to put a lot of points on the boards because they're exciting quarterbacks and the ability to do things that, Lamar Jackson does things very few people, maybe Kyler Murray can do, but Lamar fumbles last night. That leads to a touchdown, but Derek Carr played great, I thought. The interception was not his fault. It went right through the hands of Willie Snead. He's got to make that catch, but he doesn't. If he makes that catch, maybe the game's over. But for the Manning brothers, they got an exciting game. There's no question about that. For us as viewers, I still think, I don't know necessarily we're going to be used to this. Because again, I remember doing this when we were at ABC Monday Night Football. The game is really what everybody is tuning in to watch. Unless, of course, you love the Mannings and you want to see them do their thing and have Peyton put a helmet on and tell you, what all the calls at the line of scrimmage are and why it's so important to give Lamar Jackson a play that he can call and just run it as opposed to giving him two different plays to select from. Those are all, that's kind of internal knowledge that we all would know. Very few people actually ever talk about that. They usually talk about what's happening on the field of play. And remember, in the case of Peyton and Eli, there's nobody telling them in the ear, this is the replay that's coming up. This is what we're doing, and you have to stop your train of thought, and then you have to react to what now is on the screen. Because we as viewers are watching Peyton, Eli, and their guests, and we're not really watching the game. We're just listening to what they have to say. On the other broadcast, unfortunately for those guys, they're going to have to put up with all this stuff now for 9 more games, is that, they're actually doing the game. So what they're doing is different than what Peyton, Eli, and their guests are doing.
Yeah, and all the attention was on the Mannings last night. I'm sure those guys, they brought them back. There was a lot of good reviews for them last year. I'm sure they're happy with that. But, yeah, part of them's got to be like, wait a second, we're the Monday Night Football crew, and then you've got this spectacle on the same network that is taking away all of the attention from us. I think human nature would say that's a little annoying for those guys, no?
I would say so, but I also think they're going to keep their heads down and not really say much.
Yeah,
and they're not going to say much because they just don't want to get embroiled in a controversy. Look, we all know how big the Mannings are. We all understand that they are a tidal wave. When they want to do something, here they come. Here comes the whole family. Here comes everybody else. Here comes the all the commercials and all that other stuff, which is great for them. They don't leave a penny on the table. But I will say, for me, I may, thinking what I watched last night, I may go back there. Maybe 10% of the time, 15% of the time, especially if they have an interesting guest on that has something interesting to say about the game.
Yeah.
Now, if the game is bad and it turns out to be a bad game, that will be an interesting watch because, now all of a sudden, if they're going to be as entertaining as they tried to be last night, then there's an alternate form of entertainment if the game is bad. And it's really hard when you're an announcer, and anybody who's ever done games, Phil will tell you this, if the game stinks, you start unloading all your knowledge about other things. And we had a lot of bad Monday night games. And, when I was on the radio, we tried to turn it into talk radio and discuss other things around the game while the game was going on because the game stunk. And same thing, on TV, you start emptying your bucket, as they say, and start talking about other things because the game is just so boring.
One of the things that was in the Peyton Manning bucket last night did make me laugh. This was early on in the game. This was a very good game. But he told a story about Jim Harbaugh. Did you hear this particular story?
No.
That he said he'd been waiting 9 years to tell this story. So he has the neck surgery, and he's out for that year. And then he starts working out for other teams. This is when he ends up with the Broncos eventually and goes and wins the Super Bowl. He's working out for other teams. One of the teams he works out for is the 49ers and Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman, who is the offensive coordinator now for the Ravens, Greg Roman. So David Cutcliffe, where the workouts were at Duke, because David Cutcliffe worked with the Mannings all that time, and he went down there.
Jones' college coach.
Right. So he goes down at Duke. This is David Cutcliffe is there, and David Cutcliffe's wife is there. So when the workout is over, Mrs. Cutcliffe, just being nice, offers everybody a sandwich. Anybody want a sandwich? She's just being a nice person. And everybody says no. Peyton's like, no, thanks. The wide receivers that were there working, no, thanks. Greg Roman, no, thanks. David's like, no, thanks. And then Jim Harbaugh goes, yeah, I'll take a PB&J. And everybody goes, what? So she made Mrs. Cutcliffe go into the facility and make him a peanut butter and jelly sandwich to bring out for him. What a maniac.
Sounds like Jim Harbaugh. Yeah,
I know. Peyton's like, I haven't told that story in 9 years. I've been waiting to tell that story, and I saved it for tonight.
Yeah, you got to remember that Jim Harbaugh has an enormous chip on his shoulder. He may not know it, but everybody who knows him and who's ever played with him has been around him, and that chip on his shoulder has gotten him to the success level that he's enjoyed. But yeah, it was interesting. Let's put it that way. I thought it was. I wanted them to do real games like the real way, and let them just be their personalities doing games. But
and they're not interested. Peyton's not interested in saying anything negative. He even said in an interview when he was promoting this that he's pro player. You're not going to hear him talk about players negatively. But as that broadcast went on, you could see him getting frustrated with certain things that were going on in the game, penalties and things like that. You could see that coming out, like, what is this guy doing? Oh, that's a killer. You could see that just because it's natural for him to say those things when he sees things go awry on the field, but he just doesn't want to put himself he has a reputation that he wants to protect. He's got an image that he wants to protect, and in order to really do that job properly, you have to be honest, and you have to go out and criticize maybe people that are friends and guys that you like, and he's not interested in doing that.
Yeah, he's not. He's more interested in entertaining people.
Yeah,
and which is fine because even that ESPN Plus show with Eli Manning, that Road to College Football, or the Birth of College Football that he did with Jon Stewart, was hilarious. And it was hilarious, and Peyton was a part of it, and it was big brother Peyton telling little brother Eli how to get to where he needed to go to, and he wrote down all the directions, and Eli's like, man, I got a phone. I can get there. He goes, no, you don't understand. I used to write these things down for the bus drivers when we were in Tennessee. And it's all a nod to his preparation is what it is. So you got to get the kind of understand that a little bit. But again, I still want to see Eli and Peyton do games. Real games, not doing what they did last night. I don't know if this is going to get old. I don't know if it's going to be, it's going to continue to be a fun thing. But again, if they have a bad game, I guess that will really tell. And maybe more people will switch away from the bad game just because they'll want to be more entertained by the Manning brothers and whoever their guests may be for those games. So I was a little bit, it was interesting. I caught it. I liked it. I like their personalities. But me personally, I would just rather have them doing games the traditional way. But obviously, as you just pointed out, Peyton doesn't want to be negative about anybody simply because, look, he's got a reputation. He's one of the greatest players of all time, and he has set the bar for every single quarterback that has come after him from a preparation standpoint. And that's why at all the combines, that's why when you are interviewing quarterbacks, the first thing you want to find out is if they are as committed to the game as the great Peyton Manning was when he finally took hold in the NFL, and his success at his position and the way that he ran his teams are everything that every coach and every owner and general manager are looking for in their quarterback.
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the red bell so you're notified when we have new content.